Hello and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast, which to me means 6 thoughts about reading, writing, or science fiction. So I have some really cool stuff for you today, at least I think so. So let's dive in. Number 1, I talked about the last couple episodes that I was going to start working on the next Firmament book, which is called Humanoid. And so I've really actually gotten started, like a true start now. It took me a little while because, as always, I sat down to write and just realized there was not even a plot. Like, I basically had the seed of an idea, but had no concept of how it was going to play out, of the ups and downs, of what the antagonist was going to be. Like, I just had nothing basically. So I sat down, I want to say maybe like a week ago, maybe a little more, and started doing some free writing, which is my favorite way to work things out when it comes to planning and working on books, anything I need to figure out. And to me, that just means sitting down with a document and just typing out any thoughts that are coming into my head. So it's very conversational. Like, if I'm thinking and I don't have thoughts, I'll literally write like, let's see, or I don't know how to do this or whatever. And it just keeps it flowing. Like, for me, it's an important part of my process because it will just help me get past maybe barriers, or just like if my story muscle's a little rusty, like it just gets things flowing by just any thought that's in my mind, just putting it out there. So I will just kind of like brainstorm out what I can do. So I started with that, and I was just really struggling because for a lot of reasons, partly just because, like I said, I was starting with basically nothing, and also it's just at a point in the series where things are changing a lot. A lot of the characters' roles have changed. Some characters, new characters have come, old characters have gone, and some of the major driving forces from the earlier books have kind of resolved themselves. So there was basically what I would call the major MacGuffin, or the thing everyone is after from the first few books, has been basically resolved. So I realized once I started trying to figure out how to make the story work, that there just wasn't something to drive it forward, really, and there wasn't something to drive it forward into the rest of the series. So that was obviously a big hurdle. So I was working on it in the evening, and finally I was just tired. I wasn't getting anywhere, so I just thought, well, I better just go to bed. And then I woke up at 2 a.m. and my mind was just like on fire with all these ideas. And I was like, oh, then I could do this and this and this and this, and this character could have this happen, and blah, blah, blah. So I was laying there for a while, and finally I was like, you know what? If I go back to sleep, I'm going to forget all this. So I'm just going to get up and go write it down. And my husband tends to stay up pretty late, so he was just about to go to bed, and I came out and just sat down at my desk, and he goes, so what are you doing? And I told him, like, I just have to write down these ideas so I won't forget, and then I'll go back to bed. So I just sat down and just, typed out all of the thoughts I had. It just took like a few minutes because I just had certain things that were really clear in my head at the moment and did not want to lose them. So I did that, went back to bed, and there was still a lot of holes and a lot of things I just couldn't quite figure out how to make them work. So I'm trying to remember, I think it was a day or two later, I was doing something else completely. I can't even remember. I was just like driving somewhere, washing dishes or whatever, pretty typical, doing something else. And something came into my mind where I was like, that's it. That's the thing that will pull the whole rest of the story together. Sorry, excuse me. So I came back to my computer and typed out from there like the whole rest of the outline and the whole rest of the general plot, and found a new MacGuffin for the series. And I just love that moment so much. It's like putting together a puzzle, and it's as if there was just like a whole, like so many pieces missing, you can't even really see the picture, and then there's something that suddenly just brings it all together, and it just fits, and it is that satisfying feeling of like a puzzle coming together, because you're like, okay, this works now. And it just goes, for me, there's usually that very distinct moment where it goes from not working to working. And it's so satisfying. I absolutely love that moment. So there's my story about outlining. I'm sure I'll be doing some more free writing and planning, because usually I'll reach some point and realize, oh, I didn't actually think that through very clearly and have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. But the major twists and turns and ups and downs of the plot are outlined. So really excited about that. And number 2, so once I got that done, I did start on the actual writing of the actual story, and it's been going really well. So to meet my goal, I need to write less than 1,000 words a day. I think it's like 900 something. I don't remember exactly, but I've been doing a little more than 1,000, like usually 11 to 1,300. So that is really good, and it because I know I'm sure there will be days that I do less. It's always nice to get a head start a little bit at first, so you have a little bit of leeway later on. But I am enjoying it so much. Not only do I love being with these characters, but they're in a place right now where I don't want to give too many spoilers, but basically there's some things I have been missing in the last few books that have kind of come back together again, and it's as much of a relief for me as for the characters. And so yeah, really enjoying it. Still need to find some beta readers for now why is my mind blanking? Oh, Eleftheria, so that I can get that one edited and get that one out first, because I have to do that before I can share this new one with anybody. So number 3, I'm also doing an audiobook for someone. I used to do a lot of audiobook narration and production, and I basically retired from that a few years ago. It was just getting really hard to do with kids, and also I tend to really struggle with the technical side of it. Like, I enjoy the reading part so much, the performance part, I love it, but I do not love the editing, and I really do not love the technical difficulties that always seem to crop up. So it was too stressful and too hard to fit in with little kids, so I basically quit. But I did just kind of leave open the possibility that if it is a book that I feel would do well, and if it is someone that I know, that I trust to be like easy to work with, because I've had a few authors that have been a little bit more on the picky side, and that's stressful. So if it's like someone that I trust and a book that I can really enjoy, then I'll, especially if it's shorter, on the shorter side, then I'll do that. So a really sweet friend, really an author that I really like, approached me about doing a novella of hers, and I thought about it, and honestly, the book could only end up being a couple hours long. So it really just fit all of my boxes, like not too overwhelming to try to do. I really love this girl, absolutely enjoy working with her. And I had not quite finished the novella, but I'd read part of it and already knew that I liked it and it was really well written. So I took that job, and I've started working on that also. And as usual, I've already had some technical difficulties start to happen, but I've always figured them out before, so I can figure this out. I think I've already made a lot of progress on smoothing out the wrinkles. So I'm excited to share that with y'all when it's done. It shouldn't take too long, and she very graciously gave me a really, a lot of time to get it done in, because she understands my life is not always the easiest to record things in. But so yeah, super excited about that. Really enjoying it. Number 4, I just thought I would share a little bit more on the saga of reading aloud to my kids. As I mentioned, I've started reading them Winnie the Pooh, and they are liking it a lot. I think also, in addition to the stories being something they can enjoy, they're a good length. Like, usually when I read one, it'll last us just about, the duration of lunch. And so then, I'm finished reading, they're ready to move on. So it's been great. Well, the other day, so Wednesday is vacuuming day, and so it's just really hard, again, with little kids, to find the time to vacuum, because they're scared of the vacuum and they get in the way, but I can't do it while they're asleep because it's loud and I don't want to wake them up. So it's just a challenge finding time to do it. So on Wednesday, I was just like, I just have to do this. While they're eating lunch, I put the baby somewhere safe with a bottle and put the girls at the table. It's like, okay, y'all, just eat. I just got to vacuum. And Violet, my 3-year-old, was asking, well, are you going to read Winnie the Pooh? I was like, I can't read it right now because I have to vacuum, but I'll read it to you another time. So I vacuumed the whole house, and they were not huge fans of that because they don't like it. But anyway, so then we were done, and they were done with lunch and whatever. We moved on. Well, then later, like in the middle of rest time, Violet comes running to me and she's like, Mommy, you didn't read Winnie the Pooh. I was like, yes, I told you, honey, I had to vacuum, but I'll read it to you tomorrow. So, that'll be fun. She just kind of went off all sad. And then yesterday at lunch, she says, oh, you are going to read Winnie the Pooh? I said, yeah. She's like, you're not going to vacuum? I'm like, no, I'm just vacuuming, one day a week so I can read to you again. And she's like, oh, thank you. And then several other times she's mentioned, she's like, you're going to read us Winnie the Pooh and not vacuum? So it was sweet. And I told her when she had first come to me about it, I told her, hey, like, I think it's so sweet that you love for Mommy to read to you because I love doing it. And I can't wait to do it again. And she was just kind of like, well, okay, but you didn't do it. But it was really sweet, and it made me really happy that it apparently means so much to her. So we got back on it yesterday and planning to read some more today. So number 5, this is going to be interesting. I wanted to share my currently reading, and it's a book that was suggested at my book club but did not end up getting chosen. But it just had the lady that suggested it, her, I guess, pitch for it had me really curious. And she warned that it could be disturbing. She hadn't read it, but just based on having read reviews or whatever, that it could definitely be disturbing or, bother people. But that everyone, people that read it just have said that it's really thought-provoking or interesting or well-written or whatever. So the book is called All the Ugly and Wonderful Things. And I ended up getting it from the library just because I was so curious. And I also read some reviews on my own, and sure enough, a lot of people were very offended by it, but people were also saying, it's so, there's just something about it that, makes you think, or that there's something that's good in it or whatever. So I have to say, I do not recommend this book. I have not finished it. I'm about halfway through, and I've only started it like a couple days ago, so it's going really quickly. And I definitely do not recommend it. The content is, definitely a little more than my comfort zone. And the title is very accurate. There are a lot of ugly things. Like the setting is just very brutal. Like there's, just drugs and immorality, and but what I do wish that it had been chosen for book club, because I feel that it could have been a very good discussion. Like, I don't even know, again, I'm only halfway finished with it, and I don't even know at this point if I would say I like it or rate it very highly, but I do think the author is very skilled, and so far at least I don't regret reading it, and I do think it would have made for a great discussion. So now my main frustration is that I'm not going to be able to have that discussion with my book club, but I told the lady that recommended it that I was going to read it, and so she did end up reading it also, so I guess I can at least discuss it with her. The number 6, I thought just kind of along those same lines of that book, that, All the Ugly and Wonderful Things. Again, like I said, it's very ugly. It's about a little girl in a very horrible situation. But there is the wonderful part is also accurate. There is also beauty in it. And it does stand out very strongly against the contrast of all the horrible things. And it's not, it's not, a Christian book or anything like that. And I definitely don't agree with a lot of choices the author made in how to tell the story and in what the story's about. And there's so many things that I wouldn't do or agree with. But it just does do a good job of portraying the good and beautiful things in the midst of the horrible, ugly things. And even the good things are complicated, but they do stand out very strong. And that's what I want so much in my writing. I think that there's so much of this in the Bible. Of course, that's in a perfect way, and this book is not at all. But in the Bible, we see that. We see so many horrible things. We see so much violence, there's disturbing things, there's immorality, so much ugliness, so much sin, and it shows you just how